All right, we are looking at parallel lines and transversals 5.02 SBW. Let's go ahead and take a look at our SBW real quick. So here we have a map that shows the intersection of Oak Street and Main Street by Maple Street. So we're going to name the angle pairs represented by the locations listed below, and we're going to make sure to write our answers using complete sentences. So that means that, for your first problem, library and school, talking about these two angles right here, what is your angle relationship going to be? What type of angle pair does that create? Then you've got town hall and store as well. So you got town hall and store. What angle relationship is created from that? And then of course we have, let's use red here, gas station and school. So we're kind of comparing the school again, but now we're comparing it to the gas station instead. So there's this relationship there. And then library, town hall representation, right? So library, town hall right here, library right there. That's the last one, okay? So an example answer would be like school and post office. Actually, I might do like school and, since I'm saying they're vertical angles, we want an actual vertical angle there. So like if I did school and town hall, that's not one of the options that's a part of your problem. Like if I did school and town hall, I know that those would be vertical angles, right? So then that's how my answer would end. The school and post office are, and then say vertical angles. Okay, so we know how we're going to answer the question, right? We're going to kind of remind ourselves of all the different types of angles we can work with, and I'll refer you to certain slides as a reference to that can be very helpful as a review of like visually what's going on, what's happening. In fact, one of the slides, ironically, that in your SBW slides today that can be very helpful in terms of a simple image is actually this one. Because if you refer to this image right here, it actually looks a lot like the exact same setup that the problem is in. So that can be very helpful because then you literally could take your examples, the names, for example, of each of your locations in the city, if you will, and you could put them there. Like for example, right, we said the town hall was right here, right? So you could reference the town hall right there, and you could then compare those angles, and then that would be personally that'd be the easiest way to identify what type of angles you actually had. So I'm just giving you a little bit of a tip that this slide is extremely helpful, right? So like we said, vertical angles were the school and the town hall, right? So hint, like 1 and 4 are vertical angles. Now 1 and 4 are not referenced on here because they're not vertical angles. So we're kind of expecting you to rely on the other angle relationships that are clearly outlined on this page, and they will be outlined when you respond with your answers. So I'm going to go ahead and go through maybe an example or two of kind of what we're going to target here. So the main idea is that we've got this house that I've just bought, and unfortunately it has a lot of work. It needs a lot of work. A lot of DIY kind of things that I might need to do, but in order to do that, we're going to have to review some angle relationships, and we're going to need to use that knowledge to kind of make those updates that we need, right? So we have a broken window, unfortunately, right? And we have to figure out how to make the joints more solid, and we're going to need a little bit of help because we have to identify, the types of angles that we're working with there specifically in order to do that, right? So those are an example of what we would refer to as, well, I'll let you decide. Take a moment, pause, and see if you can come up with the angle relationship right away from there. Yeah, so in this case, you can see that they're going to be alternate because they're opposite. They're diagonally opposite the transversal. You can think of that as the transversal right there. And so that's going to be alternate interior angles in our case. That's what we're looking for, right? So that's the type of angle relationship that we have there. So that's an example of what an alternate interior angle pair is actually going to look like. Now, again, I'm just going to give you a tip. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and copy this really quick. And copy this image. And I could either copy it over here and paste it in here. I guess paste the whole image. Yay me. And then I have the ability to kind of drag it around and maybe tilt it a little bit. Look at that. See how I can align that so it makes it look exactly like that? Boom. So it matches with 3 and 6, right? What did we say 3 and 6 was? 3 and 6. Right here. alternate interior angles. So you see how I did that? So literally I'm taking this diagram, and why don't we have some fun, because I've laid out the diagram here, and I've kind of placed it here. I'm just going to kind of leave it up here or whatever for right now. Move it around if I want, make it small, super tiny. And let's put it up here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go back down to the diagram, right? So just as an illustration, again, like, could I maybe line this up so that it kind of matches? Absolutely, right? Like that's the street. That's the main Maple Street. So that's, again, a hint that I'm giving you with respect to the application problem that you have been assigned to. We need new support beams, right? So we're looking at this diagram right here, and we're looking at those two types of angles, and we have to figure out what type of angle pair that actually creates, right? So maybe pause the video and see if you can identify the correct angle pair that we have going on there. So hopefully you selected alternate exterior angles. Once again, I'm going to take this right away, boop, copy it, and then I'm going to go up to the top, go up to my little slide here, my little helpful slide. I love this slide. I'm going to go here, I'm going to paste this in there, and just going to kind of make that nice and small and tilt it a little bit, match it up nice and neat, line it up, boom, 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 boom. You can kind of see it's kind of opaque a little bit. You can kind of see through it a little bit. So like angle 2 and 7 match up with that, right? So if angle 2 and 7 match up, what are 2 and 7 on the diagram say? Oh, alternate exterior angles. Remember, it says that right there. So you see how I'm doing that? You see how I'm kind of rearranging it to reference? That can be another way to help you out there as far as identifying. And again, they're alternate exterior. Why? Well, they're alternate exterior because they're diagonally across from each other, but they're outside of the two black lines as opposed to inside, like the previous example. Okay, so again, another really helpful tool to maybe reference. But any house, of course, worth its salt needs a mailbox. Right, so I need to have a new mailbox, right? And I have to have a way to reach me, contact me. And so what we need to do here is, I'm getting a little confused because of how I need to line up with my neighbor there to make sure that mailbox is nice and lined up. So I think what would happen is, we have two types of angles that the mailbox location can be at, and we need to kind of figure out what those angles are to each other. So let's go ahead, pause the video, see if you can come up with that angle relationship that we have there. Alright, so you should have said, in this case, same side interior angles. Once again, I'm taking this, I'm going to copy this, boop, copy, go back up to my little diagram. Love this diagram. I'm going to head to click paste there, zoom that out. Again, tilt it here. 4 and 6. What does it say about 4 and 6? 4 and 6. Consecutive interior angles. Remember, that also means same side. Same side. So again, that represents those types of angles, right? So let's go ahead and just kind of keep that guy off to the side there. We've been using this quite frequently, but in some ways it's kind of funny. Front porch steps. Okay, I'm working to build a big front porch in my house, and I can't wait to relax, but I need help building some steps from the ground going up to the porch. So in this case, I have some railing here, and I just need a few more nails at angle 7 and at angle 3 based off of what they've given me. They have a nice little diagram there as well. And we're going to identify what type of angle pair in blue that we have. So go ahead, pause the video, and see if you can come up with the angle pair that we're seeing right there. So you should have selected corresponding angles. They're in the exact same position. If you look at the actual angles themselves, we have 7 and 3 in the lower right of their respective quadrants, right? So if you think of this as a quadrant right here, and you think of this as a quadrant right here, they're in the lower right of each. So that's why they're corresponding. And yet, once again, this one's a little bit different structurally if I were to copy it, because there's multiple lines available. However, that's okay, because again, just having some fun with it, kind of comparing it off here. Again, they're like corresponding, right? So they could represent 3 and 7. 3 and 7, right? And 3 and 7 are mentioned as corresponding angles in the diagram, as we've mentioned right here. Okay, just again as an example. So I'm just kind of showing you how I might, strategically think about how I could use that image here, this slide right here, to help me figure out what the angle pairs are for your problem, your application problem. Okay, so here we have a couple more things to fix. Reinforcing a wall, right? So I have to drill holes for the bars to get places in the studs, right? And instead of building a new wall, I'm going to actually use the existing wall, make it stronger with some diagonal bars, right? So I'm just trying to reinforcing it, and I need to figure out this angle relationship in order to achieve that, to make sure that that's placed properly. So the question is, if you pause the video, can you identify what type of angle pair that is? So here you should have said alternate interior angles. Those are alternate interior angles right there. Again, I could copy that to that one slide that I referenced, but again, it's kind of being a little bit redundant to do that, because I'm referring back to that slide over and over again. That can be very, very helpful. Lastly, we have a broken attic ladder as well. And in this case, we broke some new rungs we bought new rungs to replace the old ones that we broke. We have to make sure they're correctly spaced, evenly spaced, and we want to make sure that the angles, of course, are equal in order for that to be true. So what type of angle pair does that represent? Again, in this case, that represents a corresponding angle pair, just as we mentioned before. They're corresponding because they're both in the upper right. Again, just taking a look at this, copying this, maybe referencing this SBW again one more time, because I only did it twice or once here, so I'll do it again. So, look at the diagram. Look at each of those examples that they're providing you, right? So see how it lines up nice and neat with the diagram. The transversal is the road. Let's see, what is it called? Oh, is it Maple Street? Is it? Let's see the diagram. Yeah, it's Maple Street. Maple Street is the transversal, and the other streets, of course, are the lines, right? So you could compare that to those respective angles, and you could determine, or you could turn it around too, by the way. You don't have to, rearranging it this way, kind of giving you that visual of what it looks like. So that gives you an idea of what type of angle pair you are working with those figures, okay? So that being said, let's go ahead and take a little bit of review over everything that we've kind of looked at. So in that particular case, we have these different types of angle pairs that we've kind of referenced. This would be same side hyphenated there. Alternate interior angles, same side interior. We have alternate exterior and the corresponding angles. And we've gone through others as well besides that. So my tip to you again, when you're doing this SBW, is to think about those angle relationship pairs visually from previous slides. Of course, the most powerful slide of all, I think that would be very helpful for you, in my opinion, is this slide right here, because it references not only all the angle types you need to look at, but it also looks a whole lot like your actual application problem. Okay, so that's going to end up being your SBW help video for today. This goes with lesson 5.02.